does a lot of cool things. The two things that we are working on now, Bert Schneider, you guys might know on Delphi, and OS9 Bert. It will be working on high-speed serial drivers for networking. Also, come by the booth, there's a couple of big books and tools on I2C compatible chips, which include things like radio tuners and things that will program your VCR. So that should be fun, and it's unique in our system. Actually, Frank has the I2C, that's right. But it is something that we offer in the system with a color computer, so that does answer that part of the question. Now, one last issue I want to bring up that is something that we've got, and I want to answer the question. Oh yeah, no, sorry, stereo sound, in and out. Sorry, thank you very much. Well, I'd love to go on a little longer, but I'm going to stop here. The catch-22 that Frank talked about. This is the cycle I was talking about earlier. You can't sell machines which can have software. You can't sell software which can have machines. And I told you part of our strategy, and that has to do with the development platform. Get Quick Basic over, give you guys access to lots of software. Then you know, because you get Quick Basic from us, gosh, you buy NM1, you will have access to lots of free software. And this time, of course, we're looking with talking to companies that have Quick Basic-based products that we can, we hope, convince them to support our system because it will be easy and we'll take over the support issues. And we've been pretty successful in negotiating so far. So that helps get out of that catch-22 loop. The other thing that's very important to keep in mind, you don't want to paint yourself into a corner with computer architecture. It's one thing your PC does, it's one thing that the bus-based computers in general do. Think about it for a second. How many people in here have written any software? Okay. Suppose you were going to write a basic program, and you wanted to write it so that it would run on any of these computer systems. Would you write it to go specifically towards a stereo sound chip or towards one of the special K-bus cards that Frank has available, and one of its multimedia applications? Do you include sound files that are 8-bit linear PCM or some kind of logarithmic PCM that one of Ed Gresick boards use? It's a very difficult issue. And what happens with some differentiated computers like ours is that people tend to write software that is generic, text-based, menu-based. That's not where all of our heads really want to be at. So we decided early on, let's come up at IMS with a standard hardware architecture that supports certain things out of the box. It's going to be out of the box. You can count on it. Stereo sound out of the box. You can count on it. Power control out of the box. You can count on it. It improves the ability of the software developer to know what they're developing for. And also included some other architectural stuff that helps us support them over back and forth between our system, Mac and PC and needed. But what our hope is that based on what you've learned about our system, that you'll buy the system and the developer can say, hey, I can count on having this kind of sound, this kind of graphics, this kind of animation. And that's going to also help this whole catch-22 from getting to much of a problem. Standard multimedia architecture out of the box. And that, like I said, that comes with a system that's unique from the Color Computer, because Color Computer doesn't have certain sound and thank you very much.
Could I get that second part?
This gentleman right here.
Yeah.
Memory. There's two big reasons why I'm going with the animation. Is because the speed and the memory. I have memory limitations, it's just very many times on my CoCo.
And your question is,
No, I'm paying attention.
oh, memory.
Okay. The second part of the question is, but before that, I think all three gentlemen should be congratulated and thanked very damn much for being part of our CoCo community. Now, the last part of the question is, does any of the companies have something that's going to be coming in the future, like a desktop publisher similar to the Macintosh style or something along that idea? And if so, about when? A year, 2 years?
Before it gets out of your mind, I want to respond to what Paul said about a couple of things. Remember I was talking about the large user installed base. If you take the number of 68K machines that are currently in the market and the ones that are being sold by all the different manufacturers, these combine to make a large installed base of machines that will run OSK software. For a developer to develop software for any one particular machine would be contradictory to that. They would not run on other machines that were similar. In the case of the points that Paul made about palette controller and stereo sound, one of the things about OS9 that makes it so attractive to developers is that software can be written to utilize the operating system. That the software application does not and should not directly manipulate the hardware if that developer wants that software to reach a wide market. Now, there are graphic systems available from all of us here. Paul is one. Ed has the VGA graphics, and he's talked about some of the other higher resolution graphics that he's doing. We have the TC70 with or without the palette controller. We have other boards plans. We have a PC68K4, which uses a PC, so the graphics abilities that are built in that, and the sound. The Mac port of OSK, which uses the Mac graphics capabilities and stereo sound that are in there. Any developer that writes software to run on any one particular machine and not on others is going contrary to the necessity of having a large installed user base. Anyone who is talked into buying one particular machine because of the presumed fact that there'll be more software available for it because it has particular software that's better is fooling yourself. This is not going to be the case. We need a large installed base. We need software that is compatible. We need developers to write software that will work with any machine that's there. And it's not difficult to do it. I've been in this business longer than anybody else. If you have sound files and you are sending the sound file out, if the stereo is there, use it. If it's not, do it manual. If there's nothing there, don't crash. Same thing with a palette controller. You can put a palette controller on a machine or not. The software that we're going to do is going to detect that capability and deal with it one way or the other. The same thing with the Tiger on the TC9. It's very easy to detect whether it's there and utilize the software if it's there and run with it if it's not there. So I'm confused by the statements that are made. They seem to be made in an attempt to try to con you into buying Paul's machine because it has this extra hardware that nobody else has. And that would be contrary to what we're trying to accomplish, and that is on OSK we want to create a large installed user base. The software that you develop, many of those of you that are in the audience, the software should be able to run on any machine that is capable of running it or exit gracefully if it isn't. In the case of even his machine, if you have graphic software and you put a terminal on it, the graphic software is not going to run on the terminal. And if you type the name of the program on the terminal, you don't want it to send all kinds of crap out to the thing, screw up the terminal. I've got a terminal in my office that if you send a binary file to it, it'll be 3-4 days getting that thing back to the way it was in the original. It's too smart. So you have to deal with these things. The software has to be written properly. I've dealt with it for a number of years. It's not difficult to do. I wanted to clear that up because that is something that I've been fighting against. Programmers tend to develop for the hardware they're running on. And this is a problem when we get software. One of the problems we have is that we have to work with the software to make sure it works with all of the different machines. That was the main thing that I wanted to talk about there. And you had a question, I completely forgot what it was.
Is there any desktop publishers available, or approximately, if there will be, approximately when? A year, 2 years down the road, whichever?
Okay, well, as long as I still have the mic, let me make a couple of comments about it because I use desktop publishing. This was done on a Macintosh. It's a tool to me. I don't particularly like the Macintosh as a computer, but I do use it because it has that capability. When you're doing something like desktop publishing, that's a very CPU-intensive application, and a multi-user system, let me rephrase that, say in an office where you have computers, you need one desktop publishing machine and many terminals. We use terminals in our office where we use programs written in Sculptor and IMS and various other word processing. Most of the text that was done in this was done in DiveStar, straight text, no graphic capability at all. It is not necessary to have desktop publishing on a system that's multi-user and not really desirable for the reasons of the slowdown in the speed. So it's kind of a contradiction. If you want OSK compatibility, if you want to be running OSK, you want to have desktop publishing, we have that in two ways. Both of them involve the Mac and the PC. In that you have either a Macintosh or a PC that is capable of all the thousands and tens of thousands or millions, whatever the hell number of programs are available for those things, to do all of that, and at the same time the capability to run OSK. So those two make a good